It's a pleasure to see you all. My name is Paola, as you have heard, and today I'm going to share with you, I guess we can call it design thinking. No. The process behind some of the exhibitions that I do, in particular about the next exhibition, which is called Broken Nature, and it's going to be the next Triennale di Milano, Triennale of Milan. It's going to happen next year in March, and I'm doing it from MoMA for the Triennale, which is where I started my whole career. So it's kind of emotional because I'm from Milan, and I was a gopher, like painting walls at the Triennale when I was 23. And as Alan mentioned, I try to tackle big issues that are relevant to everybody using the amazing platform of the Museum of Modern Art and the incredible lens that is design. And in this particular case, after having tackled violence, communications, and many other topics, I would like to tackle the hardest of all, which is sustainability. Why hard? Because it's so slippery, because it has so many different meanings, and because it is so sometimes too abstract. What you're looking at here is the crack in the Antarctica. There's a piece that is twice the size of Luxembourg that is coming undone from the Antarctica continent. And this is instead something very different, which is an image that was spread a few weeks ago. It's a LIDAR, so a new type of radar and sonar view of some Mayan ruins in northern Guatemala that were unknown before, that show how much wider and developed and bigger the Mayan civilization was. The two images have something in common, the threat of extinction. The Mayan civilization became extinct over 500 years. It didn't happen overnight. Out of the 5 extinctions that we've known so far, only the dinosaurs were obliterated overnight by a meteorite. All the other extinctions happened slowly, and so is ours happening right now. How long it'll take is up to us. I believe that design can help us design a better ending. So the next species will think of us not as complete morons, but with some tenderness and maybe even respect. So the exhibition that I'm planning is about that, but I'm not going to say it so openly. I'm just going to say that it's about restorative design. I'm going to say that it's about the fact that we have severed so many of our ties with nature, not only with the oceans and the plants, but also with human nature, with our own selves, with our community, and even with the microbes that live in our guts. And if we want to have a better ending for us and a better continuation, however limited, we have to think of paying reparations to ourselves and to nature, and think of restorative design. This quote by Félix Guattari, I'm not going to read it for you because you're reading it already, talks about the fact that we need to change not only the circumstances, but the culture within us. And truly, design is not thinking, but culture. And what everybody on this stage has argued so far for is a change in culture. The work of Rachel Sussman, a wonderful photographer that went all over the world looking for the oldest living beings, is kind of telling. One of the dimensions that we're missing and that designers could try to reintroduce is the long-term dimension. I don't know how many of you know about Stuart Brand, the great thinker that created the Good Earth catalog in the 1960s. He's now working on a project called De-Extinction, which is about reviving species that have become extinct, not dinosaurs, it's not Jurassic Park. It's more intimate, small passenger pigeons and other small species that replenish a natural environment, an ecosystem that has become extinct. And it's once again about taking the long view and trying to think beyond the 2 generations that we're used to thinking about. It's about thinking of design in a more organic way, and it's about thinking of the integration with other disciplines also in a more organic way. What you see here is a beautiful diagram created by Neri Oxman. So often when we think of engineering, design, science, and art coming together, we think of Venn diagrams of all these like beautiful bubbles that every now and then come together, and then there's that part where they all come together, and that's where the magic happens. But in truth, it's not so mechanical and haphazard. For real design culture to happen, there needs to be a real metabolic cycle happening amongst the disciplines. So science informs engineering, which informs art, which informs design, and they interact among them, and the production of real constructive thinking happens there, and also a sense of long-term for all the creative disciplines. That's why Broken Nature will deal with the interaction of all the disciplines, not only about design in all its forms taken abstractly, but the way design interacts, say, with anthropology, with economics, even with entomology. The work of E.O. Wilson teaches us so much about how animals, even small insects, can help us reconfigure and reestablish certain community values that we might have missed along the centuries. I would like to really, with this exhibition and with this Triennale, to gather examples from all over the world. As Triennales always happens, there's a curated exhibition that I will curate, and then there's international participations, and we're hoping very much that Singapore will also be part of that, Agnes, you know that. And I will gather examples from all over the world, both good and not so good, perhaps, of how to integrate the needs for our future with the needs of our present. Very often when exhibitions are about the future, they don't really think of the past, but our future might reside in some of our past practices, in some of the ways we used to build or we used to non-consume in the past. I like very much to see how we might invent new ways to produce energy, but we recur to very ancient ways to actually design the fields. If you think of Inca and Aztec monuments that are carved in the territory for the gods to behold, in a way, sometimes the solar fields are very similar, like this one in China also. Similarly, there are architects that work today using ideas that were very ancient, as the idea of designing with climate. Philippe Ram is a Swiss architect living in Paris and practicing in Paris that bases all of his projects on considerations of climate and temperature movements within the house or within parks. It's very ancient and also very contemporary, and definitely attuned with the organic way of living that we've always had. There are designers and architects all over the world that are thinking of ways to integrate also methods for cleaning the air and dealing with pollution, both ancient and new. You see here two projects that were presented in New York at the Young Architects Program. And one is about a garden on the roof, while the other is a building that's painted using a paint that is supposed to help clean and purify the air. Similarly, this great designer, Zijun Wang, who lives in Shanghai, is taking something that is necessary for so many people in China and in other polluted parts of the world and making it into fashion, taking very expensive sneakers and making them into masks that kids really want to wear, not only have to wear. Another project that I find really fascinating is this, How Much Water Do You Eat? This water cafes that were created by curator Jane Withers. This particular one was in Dashilar in Beijing a few years ago for Beijing Design Week. It was also about changing culture. All these projects are about changing culture. What if we could read in the menus of the restaurants where we go the footprint of water and carbon for every dish on the menu? At the beginning, it might be like ruining our parade and ruining our party, but then it would become part of our culture, and all of a sudden we would have a different attitude towards waste, for instance, or also towards production. Also, there's very ancient ways to produce that might come back to help us understand what it means to repair and restore. The work of Forma Fantasma, two Italian designers residing in the Netherlands, is incredibly interesting. Not only are they teaching people how to build in ways that we have left behind centuries ago, for instance, to make resins before the oil era using straw and shellac and beeswax, but also they are thinking of how to recycle and replenish sensibly waste like the electronic waste that is very non-biodegradable. You see there on the right-hand side their latest project that is on display at the Triennale of Melbourne as we speak, and that is about reusing and recycling pieces of electronic waste and making them into furniture. repairing is another amazingly old but lost art that we're trying to reinsert in the so-called first world. You see here two projects that are about capturing the wisdom of the so-called, and I have to say so-called all the time here, third world, and harnessing it for the needs of other civilizations. On the left-hand side is Kukula, a project in Berlin that allows refugees from different parts of Africa to create furniture using the beautiful project Autoprogettazione by Enzo Mari, a fabulous designer that is also one of the most incendiary Marxist thinkers that you can imagine to this day. And on the right-hand side is Social Label in the Netherlands, a similar project that allows people that are far from jobs and productive methodologies to actually have a job and make ceramics and other objects. Repairing is extremely important, and as I told you before, it's a lost art. I remember growing up in Italy when there was not that much money and we would repair everything, but in New York, where I live right now, everybody throws away a coffee pot as soon as it's broken. Well, there are movements in the world from England to New York to everywhere in the first world to start repairing objects. Fixperts on the left-hand side is a club of people that want to repair, and it was started at the Royal College of Arts in London, and it's now spreading. While on the right-hand side is the beautiful project by Martino Gamper a few years ago at the Salone del Mobile in Milan that aimed to put repair shops outside the Rinascente, which is one of the most famous department stores in Italy. People are trying to think of how we will conquer Mars using boots that grow mycelium on the way there, and that will enable us to think of the tools we want to make. They are thinking of how to build architecture using silkworms to introduce and engage nature in the construction process. They are thinking of making us more powerful and stronger by replenishing or changing parts of our body to make them even more efficient and faster. They are even thinking of giving us doppelgangers to keep us company. This is the beautiful work of Professor Hiroshi Ishiguro that makes doppelgangers of people. And this is Matsuko Deluxe, a TV anchor in Japan, with her Matsukoroid, the humanoid with whom she has a TV program every week. They're even thinking, some designers, of giving us more efficient organs that can be substitutes of what we have right now. And they're also thinking of capturing our last breath so that a death mask can be created that captures the soul and the last breathing moment of every human being. This is the 3D printed mask capturing a person's breath. I've given you only very few examples, including this video game that will survive you. It's a video game that you will not be able to finish in your lifetime. You will have to leave to your kids. They are all examples of what Broken Nature will be. Broken Nature will be an exhibition that is still in process, so I hope you will all have ideas to share with me that will try to really think of different ways that we have to repair our ties with the world. Thank you very much.